Hey guys, welcome back. So today we are going to see one of the Java 8 feature is default and static method in interface. So before getting to the code, right? So we need to start with interface. What is interface? So till now, before Java 8, right? So if someone asks like what is interface, definitely two things will come into our mind. By using the interface, we can able to achieve fully abstraction, which is nothing but we are not going to give any definition of the methods. So whatever the methods we are declaring inside the interface, so it's going to be just a declaration. So who are all going to implement that particular interface, they have to provide their own definition. So which is nothing but who are all going to create a type of the interface object, right? So they can simply access the interface methods. So that will like hiding actual implementation. So simply it will be showing that method where you're going to use it. But along with that, so what problem it is solving, like multiple inheritance, obviously, because if two interfaces having the same method name, if you're trying to use it in the Java, so obviously there is a diamond problem will come into picture, because how the program will comes to know like which one which method it has to use, correct? So for that, what happened in the interfaces, you can directly give two method names. One is method like a B interface, and you have a method one. And if you're trying to implement with any of the classes with these two uh, interfaces, obviously you have to provide the implementation for that particular method. So in that case, like we can able to like achieve the multiple inheritance, because if you do the same thing with the class, obviously you will end up with the diamond problem, because you can't able to access which method has to be referred. So interface also come up with one more issues, okay? So which is nothing but like, for example, you have one interface, you added some methods, okay? So suddenly you implemented in many classes, and you have provided all the implementations. So later you got some enhancements we need to add some more functionality to that interface, like we can add one more method. So what will happen, wherever it is implemented, it's going to be affect. Obviously you will get a compilation error. We need to explicitly implement those method, and we need to provide the definition for that particular method. So actually Java also have the same issue. So what they come up with a solution called, which is default and static methods. Actually by using this default and static, we can avoid affecting any other implementation classes, okay? Without affecting any implementation classes, we can able to add any methods into the existing interfaces. So Java also, like as I mentioned, Java also encounter same thing. So Java already implements same default method in existing built-in interfaces, okay? Maybe I can show you. Before that, I can show you like some codes, how we can able to achieve this default and static, and how we can able to access it, because once you declare that method, how we can able to access that also I will show you. So here I already created one package called default static interface, and I created one class. So this is the class, and if you see public static void means main method I have created. And if you see the top, just an interface, bike interface, and I created one method engine, and I created two class. One is Honda bike and another one is Royal Enfield bike. So both are implemented the bike interface, and they provided one actual their implementation. Honda bikes, it's going to be 350cc, and Royal Enfield bike, I'm just giving a 650cc, okay? So if I going to access these two, like for example, I'm trying to access Honda bike, I'll give Honda bike equal to new Honda bike. So I can simply Honda bike dot engine. Then similar way I can do Royal Enfield also. Royal Enfield, I just give one Royal Enfield equal to created an instance, and I am just typing Royal Enfield dot engine. So in this case, two instance I created, and I'm just calling the engine method, which is in the interface. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run this. Yeah. So now you can see these two are printing whatever the implementation we give in the uh, classes, implementation classes, right? So that is printing here. But now if you imagine, let me minimize this. If you imagine, I got one more requirement called maybe void, okay? Void, sorry, not a void, like wheels, okay? WHELs, wheels. So how many wheels the bike can contain? So if you see, as and when I added this particular wheel method, okay, immediately I started to get the compilation error, because if I hover this, you can see you have to implement that particular method, whatever the wheel we have implemented, because whatever the method you have declared inside the interface, it's going to be always abstract, right? Now what is the problem? I can simply go and implement it, and I have to provide my own implementation, right? Which is nothing but a definition what I need to give. but think like like it will be always two, right? It's not going to change for bike. For example, take an instance like bike always have two wheels, right? So in this case, again I need to give one implementation here. Again, if I go here, again I need to implement. So think like it is just a sample application or program, right? But if you think like very big application, you have multiple interfaces, and you which is implemented many classes, right? So suddenly you are adding one more feature in the interface level, then suddenly you will start to get up more error because you have to explicitly implement that particular method. So to avoid that, so what Java come up with, like default and static method, you can use it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, as I mentioned, wheel will always be two. So instead declaring just a wheel, I'm going to give a default keyword. Okay, so now here itself I can give my own definitions. Okay, bike should always have two wheels. Okay, and if you see, let me remove this for time being. So now you can see I'm not getting any error, so it's still working, right? So is it possible I can able to access this wheel method? Yes, it is possible. Same, I'm not going to change anything, simply I'm just using the same instance. I'm just typing wheels, and here also I'm just typing Royal Enfield dot wheels. Now let me run it. Cool. So here you can see bike should always have two wheels, both are printing. So which means now you can see without affecting the implementation classes, we can able to add any functionality in the existing interface itself, right? So the thing is, now you can see I'm putting default keyword, right? So default methods are actually bounded to the instance. If you want to access any default method, you have to be using the instance to access those particular method. Without the instance, you can't able to access. Okay, so now again, it's not like only instance, right? Sometimes we want to access the method just by using the class name, right? If you take any existing class functionality, we can declare any method with the static. If you declare the static, it's not going to be bounded with the instance itself. It's going to be bounded with the class level, which means like you can use the class name to access the actual method. You need not to create any explicit instance and to access that particular method. So same, Java also give the same functionality here. If you see, I can give static method, static void. Maybe I can give one more functionality like fuel. Okay, fuel also it's going to be like petrol. So bike will run on petrol. Okay, so now static method is there. Now you might think like, is it possible, can I able to use access this particular method? Yes, it is possible. So now what you can do, simply you can go down. I'll put it at the last. I need not to create any instance. Okay, now directly I can use the bike interface name, and I can put dot fuel. You can see, so directly I can access. I don't need any explicit instance for this. So in this case, like static and default, we can able to use it, and we can able to add any existing interfaces. Now you can see both are working fine. Okay, so then we will check one more, like what are the ways like we can use this default and static methods. Okay, so as I mentioned, default method, it's going to be bounded to the instance level, right? So can I override this particular method? Yes, it is possible to override. You can also override this method. There is no harm in that. Okay, it is possible actually. So for example, wheels. Okay, maybe I can. What I'm going to do, I'm going to override this particular wheel, and I will give some extra meaning to that wheel. Okay, for example, in this Honda. Uh, so I'm just clicking on the implement methods. You can see wheel method I can able to override. So by default, bike.super.wheel is coming. So I'm just commenting this part as of now. Okay, let me just print something. So bike should always two wheels. Okay, so this is correct. So what I'm going to do, and wheel type is alloy. I can mention alloy. Okay, so this is for Honda bike. Same thing I can do it for Royal Enfield bike also. I can override. So instead of alloy, I will be like normal. Type is just a normal. Okay, so is it possible, can I access these wheels? Yes, it is possible. We already doing that. Now what will happen, if you see this is the system the print statement which we declared with inside the wheel method, right, inside the interface. Now I already override that particular method in both the implementation classes. If I run this, obviously you won't get this particular output. So we are going to get these two things. You can see bike should always have two wheels, but wheel type is ally, and here also wheel type is normal, which means we can able to override that particular method also. Okay, so this is possible. Then one more thing. So for example, here only one interface, right? What will happen? Like for example, what about the multiple inheritance? Is it possible going to support? So let me do one thing. I'll instead of typing, let me copy this. Okay, completely, and I'll put it here. Instead of bike, I'll put a sports bike. Okay, sports bike. So same sports bike also having the engine, and it have two wheels, and it have the fuel, all those things. Okay, there won't be any change. Now you can see both are same, and which have both the same methods, right? So now I'm going to do, instead of just I will take only the Honda bike. What I'm going to do, instead of implement only one interface, I will implement sports bike also. Now you can see sports bike also I have implemented. Okay, now I'm not getting any error. So instead, what simply I'm going to comment this. Okay, just for now I'm just commenting it. Now you can see I'm getting one error, right? What it is showing, unrelated default for wheels. Okay, so which means what it is saying, bike also having wheel method and sports bike also having wheel method, even though both having the definition, which one I'm going to take it? It's hard to decide it. Again, this diamond problem will come into picture. Okay, so for this, actually compiler will immediately throw an error. You have to specifically provide the implementation for this particular method. Until unless you're not giving any implementation, it's not going to work at all. Okay, now you can see immediately it is asking me to override. Okay, so that is what we already did, the override, right? So if I uncomment, you can see once I override, the error will gone, and it is work as it is. It's not going to break anything. But if you notice, when previously when we have started to override, there is one in the 30th line number, bike.super.wheels. So sometimes I'm not going to stick with one statement. Okay, I want to use the existing super class or interface, that particular implementation I want. In that case, why I need to like explicitly override, and I need to give my own definition. I don't want to give my own definition, but override is mandatory. But I don't want to give my definition. Instead, I'm going to stick with either of the class, either of the interface which we are implementing. So I'm going to stick with any one of them, and I'm going to take that implementation or definition. I'm going to use it here. Simply what you can do, simply use the interface name, and you can provide the super.wheels. Okay, which means it will go on to invoke this particular implementation. So let's check once. I'll just run this. So now you can see bike should always two wheels. If you see, when I call this wheel method, then definitely it will go here. Okay, it will go here. It will see, okay, wheel. Then what is the definition? Bike.super. Bike, what is bike? Bike is again here super type. So it's going to be a interface. And what is the wheel implementation? So this is implementation. That's what it's printing. So in case if I don't want bike, instead I want sports bike implementation. So if I give this, it's going to be same. So now what you will get it, I think same statement I gave, right? So what I can give sports bike. Okay, let me run it. Yeah, you can see sports bike should also have two wheels. Okay, so this is all about the like default and static method. And one more thing, as I mentioned, Java also have the same things, and Java also already implemented this default methods in many places, right? So I'll show you one of the places like where Java is already implemented and how it's going to be very powerful things. Okay, for example, you can go to list. Okay, the list is one of the interface, right? If you see list interface have the default methods. Okay, so if you see the collection framework, list is like a top level. Okay, if you add any functionality to that interface, what will happen? Whoever implemented that interface, for example array list and all, you have to provide the implementation for that method. So why I need to give that implementation? So instead what they did, simply they provide the definition for that default method. So then you need not to override. So if you want to override, you feel free to override. There is no wrong in that, but there is no necessity, or there is no mandate to override that particular method. So this way we are not going to affect any down the stream whatever the classes which is implemented those particular interface. We are not going to impact that implementation. Simply we can add any feature at any time in the top level interfaces. So this is all about the default and static methods. I hope you guys have understood, right? So what is about default and static interface? You can play around with the functionalities, like how you can able to access, and this is how you can able to access this default and static methods. So I'll see you in the next video. So thanks for watching. So bye bye.